Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sit Down. And back in for a little Spooktober action. If you are unfamiliar with what I'm talking about, all month long this October, I've been watching a different scary, spooky Halloween movie as we count down the 31 days to one of my favorite holidays, Halloween. And as you can see on the screen in front of you, thus far, I think we've had a pretty nice mixture of movies. New, older, classic, scary, thrilling, just from genre to types of movies. I think I've had a real good time in everything we've been watching. And right now we're smack dab in the middle of a run of movies in the fourth week of October that quite connect closely to me. Things that I watched when I was younger. And in 2001, we got another Johnny Depp detective movie, much like Sleepy Hollow, where he played Ichabod Crane, who was working as a detective on the killings in Sleepy Hollow. We once again have Mr. Depp taking on a detective, but in a way more serious manner. It doesn't have the kooky and quirkiness that Ichabod Crane has. And it delivers what I think is a really riveting drama, even if there aren't a ton of scares in it, or really any, but still a movie that I really dig. So why don't you pull up a chair, man, take a seat. We are getting ready to dive in to From Hell. And as I said, Mr. Johnny Depp is once again back in the driver's seat as Inspector Frederick Aberline. And From Hell, for those unfamiliar, chronicles one of the theories around who Jack the Ripper could have been. It's based off of a graphic novel by Alan Moore and Eddie Campbell. And like I said, it chronicles one of these theories that Sir William Gull, who was a physician to the royal family, was actually responsible for the Jack the Ripper murders. One of the things about Jack the Ripper is the most famous thing about Jack the Ripper is that he went on a killing spree of a number of different prostitutes and then got away with it. No one ever caught him. No one has any clue who he is. However, based off of the facts, things and like the fact that even though the murders were quite brutal, there was a precision to them, an almost medical expertise to the things that he did to the bodies. And lots of things and different clues kind of point to the fact that this person was probably educated, which means they probably came from some kind of money or had money, and possibly, was either in the medical field or had a strong knowledge of the human anatomy. And that pointed to Gull. However, Gull was, I believe, in his late 70s, and he was, failing in health at that point in time. So it was quickly dismissed. However, Alan Moore and Eddie Campbell adapted that theory into a book of the same name as the movie From Hell. I have not read the graphic novel, but I certainly, of course, have watched the film. And while the film doesn't really deliver on the scares, and I think that probably falls more into the marketing back when the movie came out, because it definitely had a horror vibe to it. And the movie has plenty of horror elements. There's just nothing really scary in it outside of the fact that, like, Jack the Ripper was a scary dude and he did really messed up stuff to prostitutes. But I think the movie is a really gritty and well-executed crime drama. And I love the elements that Moore and Campbell bring, I would imagine, to the graphic novel that inspired, the adaptation for the movie, in the sense that, Aberline is a really on-the-nose kind of detective, but much like Sherlock Holmes, loved the drugs. The movie opens with Aberline loading up a opium pipe. And one of the things that I love that the Hughes brothers do directing here is the close-ups they use throughout the film. The film opens with a lot of close-ups, it closes with a lot of close-ups, and certainly as we get to know our characters, we are up in them real close. And it's one of those things that can be super effective when executed correctly in pulling you in faster into the movie and getting more invested. And I certainly feel that effect from those things. You get a strong connection to Depp and the opium, which plays a huge role in the movie, as much like Sherlock Holmes, Aberline's character is kind of dependent on drugs sometimes to help him think things through, or in most of the scenarios in the movie, lead him to visions that help him figure out what's going on. And the second thing that we see kind of in the first 10 minutes before we really get into the first murder and the movie itself is the familial aspect of the prostitutes themselves. I love the way the Hughes brothers paint them as a family and give them all sorts of characteristics, from even the bickering and fighting that sometimes can go amongst sisters. And it does really kind of pull you in and invest you in these characters that certainly back then most people wouldn't have given two rips about because they were prostitutes. But giving that kind of story element and spending as much time as we do with the group, as the murders happen, you certainly feel that effect. And like I said, you're invested in that group. And even though you know they're all going to die, it's still gripping to go through that story with them. And that's the thing that I think grounds the movie and really kind of gives it a very close and realistic feel, as, you know, is setting London quite accurately, or at least it feels accurate. The look and feel and production design of the city and of the characters and their wardrobes, I think, is executed really, really well. And from the lighting to the different, shots and angles that they use throughout the city to tell the story, and the repetitive things like the carriage that always leads right before a murder, how it has stairs that drop down. We see that throughout. Noises or different visuals. That repetition and those shots just kind of all together visually tell the story quite well. And from the screenplay, like I said, I think this works as a really, really grounded crime drama. And I thoroughly enjoy watching Johnny Depp as Aberline figure this whole thing out. He's really, really serious, and even though he does smoke a lot of opium and even take absinthe with a type of poison, I can't remember the name of it, but even though he does these different things that lead to hallucinations and visions, he takes his work quite seriously. And the investment that he has in the group, and eventually the feelings that he develops for Heather Graham's character, Mary Kelly, really give him a lot of personal investment in the movie, so that as it drives up to the end, you're feeling that sense of panic and urgency that Depp is delivering. And once again, it's just something that he knocks out of the park and fits so perfectly with inside the movie. And then for me, after Depp, I really do enjoy this group of women. Heather Graham is Mary Kelly. Besides visually striking with her red hair and sometimes the red dress that she wears, just really has a lot of fun with the movie. And her chemistry with Depp is subtle, but quite good. You can kind of understand how and why he falls for her, despite the fact that she's a prostitute, because she doesn't come off that way the whole movie. And of all of the prostitutes, she's the only one that we don't see doing any sexual activity. So there is more of an innocence to her, and just the fear and the concern that she has for her friends is just a quality that I think Graham brings to the role that really, really works. And then from the rest of the girls, from Dark Annie Chapman, played by Catherine Cartledge, Liz Stride, played by Susan Lynch, Kate Eddowes, played by Leslie Sharp, Polly Nichols, played by Annabelle Apsian, Martha Tabram, played by Samantha Spiro. They make up our group of 6, and all of them do a really good job, and they all kind of have these different feels and vibes of, if you have a sister, like the different kinds of sisters that, you might have within a family. So one is brash and very loudmouthed and not afraid of confrontation. One kind of has more of a motherly vibe to her. Heather Graham's character obviously has that sister who looks out for everybody, and the way that they all deliver those elements, and the fun that we get to see them have early on, to the sorrow and terror that they have as the movie progresses. I mean, the way that they, are pressured by a gang early on that kind of runs one of the streets that they're on, the Nichols gang. They kind of really apply that pressure in a way where you think maybe the murders are stemming from them. Certainly the prostitutes think that. And you get this sense of urgency for the money that they need to make. But by the time things are really getting out of hand with the Ripper, not trying to go out very late at night, staying indoors, trying to be safe. And you feel for these women as you watch them slowly get taken out one by one. And I think they all do a really fantastic job. The other person that I really love in this movie is Robbie Coltrane, who plays Sergeant Peter Godley. He's Johnny Depp's partner. And again, their chemistry, something I love, very brotherly. Godley is aware that Depp likes to chase the dragon. He knows that, Aberline is an opium addict. But he rolls with it because Aberlin's a genius as well. And the visions that he gets usually help the work. And the way that he looks out for him, and just the very subtle closeness that they have throughout the movie as they work through things. When you get to the end and Depp's character has overdosed with that opium. Again, something that's a huge element all the way through the movie from the beginning to the end. We see him in the same place, once alive, nearing death, you might think, then actually dead. Godley has this one moment where he kind of is saying goodbye to him and he gets choked up. And it's just wonderful to watch. And those are the things that I love watching those two work on screen together. And then, of course, Mr. Ian Holm plays Sir William Gull. Perfect candidate and perfect actor for that role. On the older side, looks the part of someone who's failing, in health. We see Gull sick at one point, and he is a confidant, someone that Depp goes to continually throughout the movie, that Aberlin, leans on. We see Depp and Holm on screen quite a lot, and there's this interesting respect back and forth to them. And I love the way that when you know that Gull is Jack the Ripper in the movie, the way that he flaunts things in front of Depp and different things as he helps with the investigation. Oh, he has to be a right-handed person because it's going from left to right. Kind of laying out, maybe it's this set of knives that would do the trick. And he's basically taunting Depp to figure it out. And by the time he does, and I love the way that the movie ties it into the Freemasons, and how there's kind of this cult vibe behind everything that he's doing, and there's some sort of ritual that he's partaking in. That the people in the Freemasons keep Depp from getting to him, and then after he kills the sixth prostitute, they tell him that he's done, and then they perform a form of lobotomy where they put three holes in your head, and he basically turns into an invalid after that. So you see Ripper get punished, even though he technically gets away with it. And all of that is just fun elements to play with in a story where we don't know the answers. But if we did have the answers, this seems like a really viable story. And the way that the Hughes brothers, like I said, paint the picture of Jack the Ripper, 3/4 of the movie, you never see his head, or if you do, it's in a shadow or from behind. And they create this looming, almost shadowy type figure who's committing all these murders. And then as we see more and more of the gore and more of the results of the murders, we eventually get to see, Gull do his final murder after talking directly to Depp. It's a wonderful game of chess between the two of them throughout the whole film. And, Holm does a really good job. There's actually this wonderful thing that they do with him where he can seem like this frail old man. And then as he's basically admitting everything to Depp, he closes his eyes. And when they come back, the lightness of his eyes are gone. They're completely black, or at least the pupils are. And it's one of these real subtle little things that's quite chilling when it happens. And it kind of gives the sense that Gull may have been tapping into supernatural forces that allowed him to execute the murders as violently as he does. So overall, yeah, From Hell is missing on the scares, but oh god, is it a gorgeous movie to watch. And it's really, really well acted. And for me, like I said, I think it's a solid crime drama when you get into it. It's grounded and feels very realistic, to the point where someone might be like, oh, so Jack the Ripper, was Sir William Gull, huh? No, it's a theory. But if you were visualizing that theory, really works quite well here and makes me certainly now want to dive in and go check out the graphic novel that Alan Moore and Eddie Campbell did. So there you go, man. Those are all my thoughts on From Hell. Another solid Depp entry, I think, into our Spooktober, even if it isn't that scary. Plenty of horror elements and some of the body horror and some of the crime scenes, even though they're simple frames. When you slow them down and look at some of them, you're like, whoo, that stuff messed up and creepy. But From Hell, for me, certainly a win. The question is, what are you thinking? Any of your thoughts From Hell? Good, bad, indifferent? Did you read the graphic novel? How did you think the film executed it, if you did? If you didn't, What did you like or dislike about the film? When you went to go see it that first time, or when you watched it that first time, were you hoping for more of a scary movie rather than a crime thriller? How did you like the take? How did you like the direction? How beautiful did you think the movie was or wasn't? Anything you're thinking, good, bad, indifferent about From Hell, goes down below in the comments section. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new, you want to come hang out with the Sea Maniacs as they watch me talk about TV, movies, trailers, jump over there, man. Hit that subscribe button. Come join Sea Maniac Nation. And hit that little bell if you want those alerts. And until next time, for the Seaman's Cinema Sit Down, I've been the Seaman. I'm signing off. Peace! You guys are still here? You must be looking for some more content. Well, don't worry. Seaman's got you covered, man. You got videos like this guy and this guy. And if you haven't yet, and you want to come check out all the Seaman goodies, join the Cinema Sit Down squad, man. Hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit the little bell down below that, too, so you can get alerts every time I make new videos.